The broad-based Black Economic Empowerment Act, for example, defines Black people in the context of the Act as a generic term of Africans, Coloreds, and Indians. In the census and other statistical reports, Stats SA uses the terminology Black African, Colored, Indian stroke, Asian, and white. The use of race-based terminology will always be difficult for our country, like ours, for a country like ours, to accept as we work to put behind the racial injustices of the past. However, until we have reached our goal of equality for all people in our country, there will be circumstances when we need to use such terminology. Our responsibility is to ensure that our use of such terms ultimately makes the differences they refer to less and less important, until they are rendered meaningless and no longer serve any purpose. We are, as you would say, on a journey to moving away from the shadow of our horrible past which defined us as separate groups and separate entities.
All right, let's cut through the fog. President Cyril Ramaphosa stands before the National Assembly, wringing his hands about the painful but necessary use of race labels. Necessary. That word hangs in the air like the stench of hypocrisy. 30 years after apartheid, the ANC government still forces every South African into the same racial boxes crafted by the architects of segregation. Black African, colored, Indian, Asian, white, the ghosts of Verwoerd's madness, resurrected and sanctified by the very regime that claims to have buried them. Ramaphosa calls it a journey. For minority communities, especially white South Africans and Afrikaners, it feels more like a forced march back into a cage they were promised was dismantled. Let's talk facts, not feelings, because the ANC's narrative crumbles under the weight of its own contradictions. The sheer audacity is staggering. Ramaphosa justifies this racial cataloguing as essential for tracking progress towards equality. Progress? What progress? The Free Market Foundation's meticulous research lays it bare. By 2019, South Africa had enacted 116 race-based statutes since 1994. That's more racial laws than the National Party managed in its entire reign. In 1998 alone, the ANC rammed through 20 racial acts of parliament, a record unmatched even at apartheid's vile peak. This isn't dismantling inequality, it's institutionalizing it under a new banner. Stats SA, dutifully playing along, perpetuates this apartheid taxonomy in every census, every survey, every report. Ramaphosa claims these labels will become meaningless. How? By embedding them deeper into the fabric of the state? By making skin color the primary determinant of opportunity? It's a cruel joke. The F.W. de Klerk Foundation, in its sharp rebuke, called it exactly what it is: political patronage and humiliating. They're being polite. It's state-sanctioned discrimination, laundered through the language of redress. Look at the carnage this obsession with race has wrought. Ramaphosa speaks of unity while his government's policies actively fracture society. Take service delivery, or rather, the catastrophic lack thereof. Hospitals crumble without competent doctors. Schools fail a generation of children. Municipalities drown in raw sewage and debt. Why? Because critical positions are filled based on racial quotas, not merit. The de Klerk Foundation's Christo van der Ried states the obvious truth the ANC dares not acknowledge: the outcome of chasing ethnic or racial targets at the expense of expertise has had disastrous consequences. And it is the poorest of the poor, the black majority, that suffers. The very people these policies claim to uplift are crushed by them. But the suffering isn't confined. White South Africans, demonized as perpetual beneficiaries of a dead system, face systematic exclusion. Employment Equity Acts slam doors shut solely because of skin color, trapping even impoverished whites in generational despair. The brain drain is a hemorrhage. Over 400,000 skilled white South Africans fled between 1995 and 2016. Engineers, doctors, artisans, the very talent pool needed to rebuild a broken nation. Driven out by the message, "You don't belong here. Your skin is your crime." Then there's the land. The constant drumbeat of white monopoly capital and skewed ownership statistics. Yes, a 2017 Institute of Race Relations IRR report suggested whites owned roughly 72% of individual-owned agricultural land. But context is everything the ANC ignores. This figure excludes vast tracts of communal land, state-owned land, and land held by trusts or companies. More importantly, the solution, expropriation without compensation, isn't justice, it's economic arson. It fuels uncertainty, scares off investment vital for growth, and ignores the complex realities of tenure and productivity. And let's talk about the violence simmering beneath the surface. When President Donald Trump crudely referenced farm murders and the specter of white genocide, Ramaphosa scoffed. But the brutal reality for farmers, white and black, is terrifyingly real. Organizations like AfroForum document horrific attacks, torture, murder, families terrorized on isolated homesteads. The ANC's near silence on this specific violence, its reluctance to prioritize rural safety, speaks volumes. It doesn't fit the narrative of white privilege, so it's sidelined. The chilling effect on the agricultural sector, a critical employer and food source, is immense. The hypocrisy reaches its zenith with legislation like the new Prevention and Combating of Hate Crimes and Hate Speech Act. Ostensibly designed to protect, its vague definitions of harm and hate speech risk becoming a cudgel to silence dissent. Who defines incitement? The same government that relentlessly stokes racial division to mask its own failures? The same state that labels an entire community by its skin color in official documents? It's Orwellian. They create the divisions, then legislate against naming them. Ramaphosa's pious hope that racial terms will fade into irrelevance rings hollow against this backdrop. How can labels become meaningless when the state constantly reinforces them, when your job prospects, your access to tenders, your very classification in the national database hinge on ticking the right racial box? The ANC's entire BEE, Black Economic Empowerment edifice, is built on these classifications. It hasn't created broad-based prosperity, it spawned a tiny politically connected elite while millions of all races remain mired in poverty. It's not redress, it's a racket. Vanda Reed's words are prophetic. Any society that builds a future on ethnicity or skin color is doomed to fail. Look around. Is this the Rainbow Nation? 30 years on, South Africa is more divided, more unequal, more dangerous than ever. The ANC's racial engineering has been an unmitigated disaster. It hasn't healed the wounds of apartheid, it's salted them. It hasn't built a non-racial society, it's entrenched racial consciousness as state policy. For minority communities, the message is clear. You are perpetual outsiders in the land of your birth. Your history is only guilt. Your future is contingent on the state's racial calculus. Your contributions are unwelcome if they come in the wrong skin. The promise of 1994, equality, dignity, a shared South African identity, lies in tatters, sacrificed on the altar of racial nationalism. Ramaphosa talks of a journey. For those targeted by this state-sanctioned othering, it feels less like a journey and more like an endless purgatory defined by the very prejudices we were all supposed to transcend. This isn't whining, this isn't nostalgia for a vile past. This is a scream into the void about the betrayal of the future Mandela promised. It's about demanding equality before the law. It's about insisting that merit trumps melanin. every single time. It's about fighting for a South Africa where your potential isn't capped or inflated by the accident of your birth, but by your character and your capability. The ANC's racial obsession is killing this country. It's time to say enough. Join the channel membership right now. We need your support to keep this platform alive and shouting into the silence. Smash that join button. Donate via super thanks. Every single contribution, no matter the size, fuels our research, our reach, our resistance against the suffocating narrative. Allow the ads to play. Let them run fully, or at least for 30 seconds. That revenue, generated while you grab a coffee or take a breath, is the oxygen this channel needs to survive the algorithm and keep this critical conversation going. It costs you nothing but a few moments. Subscribe. Share this video widely. Leave your thoughts in the comments. Your voice matters. Smash that like button. It tells YouTube this content is vital. It tells the powers that be, we are legion. We are awake. We refuse to be erased by racial bean counters and failed ideologies. This is about the soul of South Africa. Stand with us. Fight for a future beyond the color line. Or watch the dream die